Somewhere in the Mojave Desert, there's a line of locomotives that stretches for nearly 3 miles. Some of them haven't turned a wheel in over a decade. Their engines are still bolted in place. Their wiring is still intact. Some of them, with fuel and a qualified crew, could probably start up and run today. And yet nobody scraps them. Nobody sells them for parts on the open market. They just sit there, row after row, baking in the sun, while the railroad that owns them keeps paying property costs on the land beneath their wheels. On paper, that makes no sense at all. Scrap steel has value. Land has a carrying cost. Every year those locomotives sit untouched is a year of pure expense with no return. So why does one of the most cost-obsessed industries in the country choose to do this, again and again, for decades? The answer starts with something most people never think about: what a locomotive actually is on a company's balance sheet. A single modern diesel-electric locomotive costs somewhere between $2 and $3 million to build. That number does not disappear the moment the locomotive gets old or gets replaced by something newer. It just moves from one column of the ledger to another. When a railroad retires a locomotive from active service, it has essentially two paths forward. It can scrap the unit immediately, recovering somewhere in the range of a few $100,000 in raw steel and copper value. Or it can park the locomotive and continue carrying it as a depreciating asset. On paper, in the eyes of an accountant, a parked locomotive sitting quietly in a desert is still worth more than a locomotive that has already been shredded into scrap. Doing nothing, in this specific financial sense, outperforms doing something. That's the first piece of the puzzle. The second piece is regulation, and this is where it gets more complicated than most people expect. Retiring a locomotive isn't like retiring an old delivery truck. There are environmental reporting requirements tied to emissions certification because locomotives are certified under specific engine emissions tiers by federal regulators. There are depreciation schedules that stretch out over many years, sometimes decades, based on how the asset was originally financed. Scrapping a locomotive early, before its depreciation schedule naturally runs its course, can trigger an immediate accounting loss that shows up on a railroad's quarterly financial statement. Investors notice sudden losses. Parking the locomotive instead lets its recorded value decline slowly and predictably, quarter after quarter, governed by depreciation tables instead of a single jarring scrapyard invoice. Then there's the reason almost nobody outside the industry talks about, and it might be the most important one of all. A retired locomotive isn't just a retired locomotive. It's a warehouse of spare parts standing upright on steel wheels. That machine doesn't need to run again to be useful to the railroad. Its traction motors, the massive electric motors mounted on each axle that actually turn the wheels, can be pulled and installed into an active locomotive elsewhere in the fleet. Its wheel sets, its electrical cabinets, its control systems, its compressors, all of it can be harvested piece by piece over years. Railroads call a locomotive kept for this purpose a parts donor. And here's the number that makes the whole strategy make sense. Keeping just 10 retired locomotives parked in reserve can keep 100 active locomotives running reliably for years. Because when something critical fails on a locomotive out on the main line, hauling freight across the country, the railroad doesn't want to wait 6 months for a manufacturer to build a replacement part from scratch. It wants a match sitting in inventory, ready to be pulled and installed within days. This is also why the desert specifically became the destination for so much of this retired equipment, rather than a random field somewhere in a wetter climate. Beginning in the 1980s, major freight railroads started moving decommissioned locomotives to storage yards in Arizona, in Nevada, and in parts of New Mexico, and the choice wasn't about cost of land alone. It was about the air itself. Low humidity dramatically slows corrosion. A locomotive parked outdoors in a humid climate can rust through critical components within a handful of years. That same locomotive, parked in the dry desert air, can sit for 2 or 3 decades and still have usable, uncorroded parts inside it. The desert isn't just cheap storage space. It's a preservation chamber that keeps a multi-million-dollar asset useful for far longer than it would last anywhere else in the country. Now, eventually, some locomotives in these storage lines do get scrapped. And understanding when that finally happens tells you almost everything about how this system really works. A locomotive doesn't go to the scrapyard because it's simply too old to run anymore. Age alone rarely triggers the decision. It goes to scrap once every single usable part has already been stripped out of it by maintenance crews working through the fleet's needs over years. What's left by that point isn't really a locomotive anymore. It's a shell. The steel frame, the outer body panels, the sections of undercarriage that nobody could reuse elsewhere. That remaining shell often represents less than a quarter of the machine's original weight because the traction motors, the engine block, the electrical systems, the wheel sets, the genuinely valuable components were pulled out one by one, sometimes years earlier, and are already running inside other locomotives somewhere on the network. There's also a market timing element to all of this that most people never consider. Scrap metal prices fluctuate significantly based on global steel demand. A railroad holding a parked locomotive isn't just holding a spare parts warehouse. It's also holding a position in the scrap metal market, waiting for a moment when prices rise high enough to make the final act of scrapping more financially attractive than continuing to hold the asset for parts. In years when scrap prices are historically low, railroads have almost no incentive to finalize the scrapping process, even on locomotives that have already been stripped of every usable component. It's often cheaper to simply leave the empty shell sitting in the desert a little longer, waiting for a better price, than to pay to have it hauled away and processed immediately. Environmental regulation adds one more layer that keeps these storage lines growing rather than shrinking. As federal emissions standards for diesel locomotives have tightened over the decades, older locomotives built before certain emissions tiers took effect have become increasingly restricted from operating in certain regions, particularly around populated areas with strict air quality rules. Rather than retrofit an aging locomotive with expensive new emissions equipment that might cost more than the machine's remaining value justifies, railroads frequently choose to simply retire the unit and store it instead. This means the flow of locomotives into these desert storage yards hasn't slowed down as equipment gets more advanced. If anything, tightening regulations have accelerated it, because newer locomotives replace older ones faster than the older ones can be fully stripped and scrapped. So the picture that emerges is nothing like a graveyard, even though that's exactly what it looks like from a distance, or from an aerial photograph, or from the window of a passing car on a nearby highway. What is actually sitting out there in the desert is a slow-motion supply chain. It is an inventory system built out of retired machinery instead of shelves and warehouses. It is an accounting strategy, a parts recovery operation, and a hedge against volatile scrap metal markets, all happening simultaneously, all hidden inside rows of quiet, sun-bleached locomotives that most people assume have simply been forgotten. The next time you see a photograph of dozens of locomotives lined up in the desert, sitting motionless under a blazing sun, you are not looking at machines nobody wants. You are looking at machines that are worth more standing still than they would be if they were destroyed. You are looking at a warehouse disguised as a wasteland, quietly keeping the rest of the American freight rail system running long after the locomotives in front of you stopped moving for good.